Evening. This is Rudy Giuliani with America's Mayor Live. This is not Nature Trail. Yeah, that's very. Well, don't get too loud because you see this dog here. He's got 6 big pounds of flesh already. Ah, yes, this dog in 7 months has attacked 6 human beings, including several Secret Service agents. One of whom he sent to the hospital. Uh-huh. Yes, this is Joe Biden's dog. His name is Commander. Lovely looking dog. This is what happens when you live with Joe Biden for several months. This dog used to be a sweet little pup. Never had a problem, never had an issue. Good, you live with a madman and see what happens to you. This is him before, when they first got him. Look at him. Nice, calm puppy. Look at that dog, nice and calm. Couple of months with the Bidens, Hunter, Joe, James. Now, the question is, did he get any money from Ukraine? Well, this is absolutely a bizarre story, but is there anything with the Bidens that isn't bizarre? So they have a dog, a new dog. Remember the old dog? What was the old dog's name? Was it
Major?
Major. So we go from Major to Commander. I don't know.
Is
Commander a higher position than Major? I don't know.
Commander
but in any
in Chief?
event, Commander takes over. Major had bitten 3 or 4, so they had to get rid of him. They say they gave him to a friend, but when you go by the calculation that there's almost nothing that they've told us that's true, one never knows what happened to poor Major. But Major did take a couple of chunks out of 3 or 4 people. 3 or 4. I mean, we're not talking just a couple, 3 or 4. They bring in this guy, Commander, 6, 7 months. The guy does about 1 a month, including one Secret Service agent who had to have some serious work done in a hospital. So I'm wondering if Biden gives a damn about anything. I mean, he doesn't care about the Secret Service. He's got a dog there who's ripping him apart, right? He doesn't seem to know he has 7 granddaughters. He has actually 6. And the evidence being piled up against him, do you think he has the mental capacity to calculate just how seriously dangerous a position he's in? He's got 2 IRS agents who are testifying under oath that their investigation was, let's use the right word for it, fixed. It was fixed. It was a rigged investigation in which they could not get beyond, well, they really couldn't get beyond Hunter. Any questions they would ask about Joe, they couldn't. No questions about Joe Biden, even though a lot of the money was going to him. All of a sudden, big chunk of money goes to Joe's sister. Can't question the sister. This money coming from Ukraine, coming from Russia, coming from Romania, coming from Kazakhstan, coming from, what am I missing? Well, at least, let's just stick with Russia. Let's just stick with Russia and China, both of whom are, let's say, unfriendly to the United States of America. They were supporting his family. They were supporting, let's take Joe out for a moment. They were supporting the family of the President of the United States when he was vice president in the interim. We're not talking about 12, 15 months. We're talking about Russia, 3.5 million, Ukraine, 8 million, China, 31 million. This is money for a lifetime, right? This is money that could compromise a man. And the man is president of the United States, and the country is our biggest enemy. And we are stupid enough to still have him in the White House. We're brainwashed enough, somnolent, don't care about our country. Sad, isn't it? Do you ever think you'd see a day when the person occupying the White House would be accused of 30, 40 crimes amounting to something pushing over $50 million in bribery, vast majority of it being from our biggest enemies. And half the country lying about it. Major media in the country covering it up. And the man is the head of one of the two major political parties in the country. Political party he belongs to doesn't have a single person, not a single person, that can put their country ahead of their party. There's not a single attempt at heroism by any of them. So I'll take you back to Watergate, and the day that Barry Goldwater, with several other major Republican leaders, but he being the primary ringleader, walked into the White House and had a meeting with his friend, person he supported for president, person he admired greatly as a president, even after he left the presidency, Richard Nixon, a man he thought was actually pretty close to a great president, Richard Nixon. And he said, Mr. President, you have to leave for the good of the country. The allegations are so serious, and the impeachment will make those allegations public for the whole world to see. It will do such damage to this country, to the reputation of the country. This is no longer about Richard Nixon being corrupt. It's now our America is corrupt because Richard Nixon is America. Is there a Democrat with that love of country that would have him come forward and say to Biden, President Biden, it's not about you, it's not about me, it's not about Trump. It's about the country we love. And you are doing irreparable damage to it. You're hurting it badly. The rest of the world knows you are crooked. The rest of the country knows you have infected with a cancer the institutions of government. We no longer have a Justice Department that's the envy of the world. We have a Justice Department that's a disgrace because it prosecutes viciously and fraudulently and with means that are entirely unconstitutional your political opponents. And if you don't prosecute them, you try to get them disbarred as lawyers. You try to get them thrown out of their businesses. That happens, of course, in a dictatorship. So when we lecture countries on being democracies, we're not listened to anymore. We're laughed at. The statement, you're just as bad as we are, is certainly very powerful. I continue to believe that there has to be a Democrat somewhere that loves this country enough to put that country ahead of power, money, narcissism, fear. And if we don't have a Democrat strong enough to do that, it's really time to break up the party. Get rid of it, start it over again. It could use a new name. It is associated more with slavery than any other name in American history. How these hypocrites can want to change a school that's named Washington from Washington, but they want to belong to a party that is much more associated with slavery than George Washington, I don't know. Of course, the hypocrites. Might be a good thing if they changed it to another party. I don't know. They could name it for Commander. This could be the symbol of the party. Huh? What do you think? Right now it is. So today, of course, big surprise. Not to me. I told you, right? I told you, I predicted. I said there's a good chance if we get an honest judge, case goes out because the case is the way it's being handled. The investigation is an abomination. It's a crooked investigation being allowed to work its way through the Internal Revenue Service and the Justice Department. And a judge has no right to interfere in an investigation by the Justice Department because we're three separate branches of government: the legislative, the executive, the judicial. And one can't interfere in the workings of another until one tries to bring a case in the other that is marred with illegal conduct. And that's what they did. The plea deal in front of the judge, you know what that means? It stunk. It stunk. It was wretched from corruption. It wasn't the prosecution that they wanted. Prosecution that they wanted was for the vast amount of money that he got in 2014, but that would reveal all of the machinations in Ukraine that leads to the criminal in chief. Right to him, because the money, half of it went to him. So they dropped the charges at the last minute involving all the money he got, $8 million or so in 2014. And they went with just a little bit amount of money in 2017, 2018. They ratcheted down to a misdemeanor, which actually, if you just narrowly focused on those years, it was. If you just look at those years, it was a misdemeanor. In fact, you could make the argument about those years that a lot of people wouldn't get prosecuted. They do a civil case. So they took something that looks like a speeding ticket made worse and went with it, and they left out mass murder. Not only that, they're taking the serious charge and giving him a deferred prosecution. What does that mean? Deferred prosecution is usually meant for juveniles, and it's usually meant for nonviolent crimes, not serious crimes. And it's usually used so that the young person can put their life back together again. In other words, let's say a young person gets into a fight or even does a holdup or does something, whatever. And the mother and father, or the mother comes in and says, he's going to straighten his life out. There's a chance that that's true. A judge might say, okay, we're going to withhold the charge of robbery against you, and we're going to hold it for a year. And if you're a good boy and you go to school and you drop it, it won't be on your record. Now, this is ridiculous for a 53-year-old who is a degenerate drug addict who's already committed more crimes than it could fill an encyclopedia. I mean, this guy's an international crook, and we're giving him a deferred prosecution. That in and of itself is completely corrupt. It's totally misuse of the deferred prosecution agreement. Obviously, these choices are coming from the very top. The big ugly crook who sits at the top of the Justice Department, Garland, whose brother-in-law, whose son-in-law, excuse me, thank you, Dr. Maria, whose son-in-law used to be engaged. We'll have to find out if he still is, was making millions trying to convince children who are male that they're really not, and children that are female that they're really not. So he's a real creep, making a fortune off his father-in-law, telling women who are fighting for their children that they're organized criminals. See how the team works? Kind of a little like Joe and Hunter, right? Yeah, Garland figured I fit in that administration great. He works with his son. I work with my son-in-law. We make a lot of money. Government's good, huh? Make a lot of money in government if you're a Democrat. Yeah, and if you're a Republican, you go to jail if you misplace a couple of papers. And you're the former president, and they're in a very secure location. Because within a day or so, they're going to bring that despicable indictment. I mean, how do they have the nerve to do that with these cases they fix that are real crimes? And then they go after Trump for crimes they make up. Oh, let me see if I can make up a crime on Trump. You know the best way to do that? Let's figure out what we did, and then we'll charge him with it. Like, we are colluding with the Ukrainians, and we're paying off to get a phony report against him. Let's claim he's colluding with the Russians. And the phony press will go along with us because they're a bunch of crooks too. That's the way they do it. Or They bribed the president of the Ukraine, Biden did, and also got bribed himself. Oh, why don't we say that Trump bribed the president of Ukraine? He didn't, but why don't we say to make it up? And let's keep the hard drive hidden because the hard drive can disprove it, and we can count on we can count on Ray and big fat old Barr to keep it nice and quiet. Because honestly, they pretend they're honest, but they're crooks too. So they sit on the hard drive for a year. They know it clears them. They go so far as during a presidential debate, Biden, in his few minutes of lucidity, remembers to say that the Trump is a Russian agent and that his friend Rudy Giuliani is a Russian pawn. Barr sitting there feeding his face at some fancy Washington restaurant. He hears that, knows it's not true. He's got the hard drive that proves it's not true. It was validated a year before or 8 months before. An honest man, not just an attorney general, would come forward and said, "Oh my God, that presidential candidate just lied about something really important." No, but if you're a big fat old crook like him, you take it and you hide it. So then everybody in Washington can like you. And you're praised. And all of his people, well, they try to destroy them and put them in jail. That's the Washington we're living in. Well, thank God the judge today said, I'm not going to have any of that. I'm not taking this plea. The whole thing is too confusing. I don't know if you even agreed on anything. If the two of you even agreed on anything. So I don't know exactly what happens now. There is no plea. Do they go back and try to negotiate another one? They're going to have to go ahead with the prosecution of the case. It's a strange situation because they don't. In other words, the prosecutor doesn't want to go ahead with the case, wants to take the plea that was offered to the defendant. The defendant desperately wants the plea. I mean, so would you. You walk out. You walk out of 30 years of criminality. You walk out, even though there's a statement in the hard drive that the prosecutor seems too stupid to have found, in which you tell your daughter, and everybody's ignoring it, that you spent 30 years doing crime with your father. You told your daughter for 30 years, I've paid all the expenses of this family, and even what Pop has required me for those 30 years to give him half my salary. That's a sure admission that you've been involved in criminal activity with your father. That's a sure admission that that money was for your father. You gave it to him. It sure looks like it was for your father. There's no other known circumstance where the Chinese communists were dumb enough to give $31 million to a degenerate drug addict who has a hard time walking across the street. That's you, by the way. That's you. You sit in closets smoking dope. Chinese have all those pictures. And they're going to give you $30 million, or you got a whole bunch of pictures of underage girls. They're going to give $31 million to a pervert like you. Huh? For what? So you can buy more pictures of little girls or more dope? Well, could it be for the fact that your father was the president of the United States, who basically gave them everything they wanted, who sold out his country to them nicely? They got their money's worth. They gave him at least $31 million. When they started, there was an air base 400 miles from them called Bagram. Joe Biden comes in office. Goodbye, air base. That's worth a lot of the $31 million. Huh? They sent COVID all around the world, killed millions of people. Unlike Trump, Biden keeps his mouth shut. I don't know, maybe that was worth 10 million of the 31. And now they got the ongoing kill Americans with fentanyl, and Joe actually Border Patrol assisting illegals coming over the border. And is fighting with Governor Abbott, who's trying to, if Abbott stops them, it might cut into the fentanyl trade. and his patron China won't make as much money. Now, I'm entitled to say all that inference open by taking $31 million from them. And how do you know that's not true? $31 million paid to his family and to him. Remember, we don't have to guess like all the phony, lying newspaper and television and suck-up reporters tell you. There's no proof that any money went to Joe. What about his son telling you in December of 2014? All the expenses of the family are paid by me, which means the son pays the father's expenses. And I still give half my salary to my father. That's called paying Joe Biden. Yes, there's evidence of paying Joe Biden. Now, I put that on a chart like this over here. And right below it, I can give you 20 other pieces of evidence of money going to Joe Biden, including documents. So that's just a lie. There's plenty of evidence. So the question is, when does a patriotic American emerge? Impeachment my backside. Just throw him out. Go tell him he can't be president anymore. The people won't accept it. People are not going to accept a crook in the White House. Therefore, Hunter is going to have to be very busy selling his paintings, because I have a prediction as an art expert. When Joe leaves the White House, he's not going to sell any paintings. So you better get them sold now, Hunter. How do you like this one? Anyone here? We've got 4 or 5 people here. Anyone here gutsy enough to make a guess? By the way, this is a Rorschach test. You know what? This is how we figure out if you're nuts. Yeah, good.
I mean, Mayor, I don't know about you, but I see some real value here. I mean, this is some art. I don't know. You must not understand modern art. You just, I
am. I'm the one who didn't think it was art that you paint a painting of the Blessed Virgin and put cow dung on it. But all the Democrats did. And the New York Times condemned me for being against it. So the New York Times must be really, really good on art, because they think if you throw shit on a painting, it's art. Yeah, shit on a painting's art. Here. But this is better than cow dung on the Blessed Mother, by the way. He does that with his crack pipe? Do you want to show us how he does it, Dr.
Now,
Maria?
that's creative.
Dr. Maria,
Well,
would you like to come in? Would you
creative.
like, get a big canvas? We'll have Dr. Maria, we'll do if he gets 500 grand, she gets $1 million.
Yeah.
I'm her agent. 10%? Okay.
Wow.
Now, can I take a look? I hate to deprive you of it. I don't think I have a. I think it looks a little like a little boy walking along. There's the nose. Here.
Turn it around as you describe it. Wow, I actually see it. Oh, you're not kidding.
Hand. There's a hand.
You're not kidding.
There's
That's
a hand.
Stick figure.
I see it. This is.
I see it.
There's a little nose. There's an eye. There's an eye.
Hold it up, man.
And he's saying, Mr. Zlochevsky, you didn't give us the rest of that 10 million. You promised us 5 each. We only got 4 each. Mr. Zlochevsky, please, please. And Zlochevsky says, give him the goddamn million and get rid of that little creep. And give him a little Coke with it. Throw in a little Coke. Throw in a little Coke for the guy.
Mayor, did this painting sell?
I think this painting you're not allowed to know, except we know it was purchased. We know it was purchased by someone that several weeks later was appointed to the American Beautification Committee.
You're making it up, right?
No, I'm not making it up. How could I ever make up the
American?
No, well, I don't know. American Beautification.
If you think about it, we probably could use some of that in some parts of the country, to be honest.
Yeah, paintings like that are really going to beautify America.
Mayor, can we go over some questions regarding this Hunter Biden not guilty plea?
Yeah.
So can you just kind of walk through it for us non-lawyers?
Well,
Hunter
I mean,
Biden had to plead not guilty after his plea deal fell apart. Can you kind of explain
well,
why he had to
the
plead
judge
guilty?
would not accept a guilty plea because the judge did not. I mean, technically, when a judge doesn't accept a guilty plea, a judge concludes that the guilty plea is invalid or is not in the interest of justice. And I would say it would be the second in this case. The judge concluded that the guilty plea was the product of a corrupt deal between the prosecution and the defense, and refused to have the honor and dignity of the court soiled with a criminal act. I mean, that's really at the bottom of it. She didn't say it quite as directly as that, but that's the basis on which she would have to refuse to do it. A judge can refuse to take a plea with this general term utilized, in the interest of justice, meaning the plea is unjust and therefore doesn't have to take the plea. Generally, 98% of the times, a judge leaves it to the prosecution and the defense to work out a plea. Even terrible pleas that they don't agree with, like some criminal going free for something that they should have gone to jail for. Every once in a while, a judge will intercede in the interest of public safety. Like in New York, occasionally there have been judges brave enough to save us.
Boy, we could use more of
Brad.
that in New York.
Yeah, but most of them are just as crazy liberal as he is. But he'll be letting somebody who raped 3 women go free, and not catch them until they do 4 more. So a judge will say, no, I'm not going to agree with that. And then the case, then unless they work out something the judge agrees with, the case has to go to trial. So right now, unless they work out something else, this case has to go to trial. The government's going to have to prove that Hunter Biden falsely asserted that he wasn't going to when he bought a gun. No, I've forgotten. I'm going back and look. If the more serious charge of possessing a firearm while addicted to a drug or on the influence of a drug is still there. If it is, that's a 10-year felony. And that's easily provable because he bought the gun right in the middle of 2 pictures of him driving an automobile smoking a crack pipe. Also, in his book, he admits that particular month was a big month for smoking. The month he bought it was a particularly big month for smoking drugs. So I can see proving that one from his book, right? You put the next step is probably they're going to go back and come up with another plea. They're going to try to ratchet it up a little and take her temperature and see what she's willing to accept. So maybe it sounds like there's going to have to be some jail time. Otherwise, she would have taken this. There's no jail time here, remember, which may be one of the reasons why she found the plea offensive. Number 2, I would think she is going to want to have the more serious charges that were corruptly thrown out by somebody on high within the Justice Department resolved, put in the case. And if they come back with a plea, if she's a really good judge and does her job, she'll hold a hearing. She'll have them call everybody involved in it and want to know where the plea is coming from, which means they're going to have to testify under oath in court who told them to drop the serious charges. And I would call the Attorney General. It's his department. Did you know about it? Let the crooked judge testify in court.
Mayor, so the judge pressed federal prosecutors on the investigation and questioned whether there was the possibility for future charges, and asked prosecutors if Hunter Biden was
and the answer was yes.
Active investigation, but prosecutors did say he was under investigation, but they would not answer specifically what the president's son is under investigation for. As one of the most storied federal prosecutors in American history, can you kind of explain to us why they wouldn't go into details into what the president's son is under investigation for?
Well, normally you wouldn't. Normally you would not in public announce what somebody's under investigation for. But a judge would normally say, let's go into my robing room. We're off the record. This is sealed. And you better tell me. But we won't tell the public. I want to know because I want to see the legitimacy. I want to see the legitimacy of this in comparison to what you're looking at him for. Because if this is a spit in the bucket and you're investigating him for multiple murders, we got a real problem, boys and girls.
So what you're saying is there's a good chance that the judge learned in behind.
I don't know if the judge did that. I don't believe she did.
But in some
she
cases,
should have.
You've had that happen.
Yeah, well, honestly, I don't know how courageous this judge is. What she did just ruined her for any Democratic appointment to anything ever in the history of the world.
Well, of course, when Chuck Schumer mentioned this today, he had to throw in that the judge is the former Trump appointed.
By the way, recommended by Joe Biden.
Yeah. So how dishonest, how intellectually dishonest of Chuck Schumer? But are we
intellectually dishonest? That's the nicest thing said about Chuck Schumer in a long time. Intellectually dishonest.
So Dr. Maria brought up a good question. Do we and you kind of answered it, right? Do we expect a trial date? I don't know if you want to even go.
I do not expect a trial date. I believe they're going to dick around with a guilty plea. Look, they're both on the same side here. Generally, the defense and the government are on two different sides. Here, the government may be more on the side than the defense. I mean, the defense, after all, is hampered by the faulty intellect and completely non-existent character of Lonnie Davis, and they're going to probably make more mistakes to head him toward jail, like he did with Michael Cohen, who he talked out of a plea deal. I mean, that was really great lawyering. He just had him lie his backside off, and the government threw him out. They threw Lonnie Davis's witness out. So Hunter is very well represented here by Attorney General Garland and all the people in the Justice Department. No, it's an interesting thing. He's represented on both sides of it's very, very rare that a defendant is represented on both sides of the aisle in a courtroom, but he's better represented by the government because his lawyer is a well-known public relations man who knows nothing. He knows as much about the law as he does. Oh, by the way,
Commander.
Come on now.
You're being tough on Commander.
I'm not being tough on
It
Commander.
was only 6 people.
It was
He only bit 6 different people.
Zlochevsky said that his was smarter than Hunter. But Joe says that Hunter is the smartest man he ever met, which, by the way, given Joe's ability to assess intelligence, is probably correct. It's probably correct because Joe, who now tragically, and you can say you feel sorry for him. I'm okay with that because you don't know what a human being is. I do. But you can say you feel sorry. Remember, it's not so hard on him. He has no brain, right? We all agree. But, 6 years ago, I only had half a brain. So he never was. From the day I met him in 1981, he was operating with half a brain. So it's always been that way. Yeah, there would never be a day in the last who knows how long that you'd ask a United States Senator, Republican or Democrat, just go on the side and say, who's the dumbest person in the Senate? Joe. Joe's he's a total asshole. Nice guy, though. Nice guy, but boy,
that turned out not to be true either.
Man, he is so dumb. You know what he said the other day? And then you hear some ridiculous, stupid thing about how, George Washington led the Civil War. Some crazy thing like that. So let's see. We are going through, in Biden time, we're going through a 39% increase after a 72% increase in retail. In major cities in the United States, it is not necessary to pay for anything you buy. Those people who do it on the honor system. We now pay in retail stores in New York on the honor system. We make it a little harder by putting things like a toothpaste or a Sharpie pen behind a cage. To get one of these $2.29 pens, You got to get somebody to get a key out and get it for you. And this is because our district attorney doesn't prosecute you if you steal one. He was put there by George Soros. He's put there on purpose by George Soros so people could steal pens and everything else they wanted. He was put there. Biden was put in the White House by him. And then about 55 other district attorneys were placed very, very beautifully around the country in our major cities so they could do a very significant historic things. For example, under Soros, 2 years ago, 12 cities set a record for more homicide than ever before. This guy George has a heck of a record, huh? Imagine going to your grave knowing you got like twice as many black young people killed than would have been the case had you not put out your millions and millions of dollars. You must be a real patriot, pal. You're a really, really good guy. How about Philadelphia? You think you'd go to Philadelphia? I think you'd want to be introduced there. When you put in the DA that produced 2 record murder years in a row, more Philadelphians killed under your regime than ever before in history. City's been around a long time, George. Nobody's ever gotten as many people killed in Philadelphia as you did. Nobody's ever gotten as many black people killed in Philadelphia as you did. I don't know. You don't like black people, maybe? What is it? You don't like people? No, I know what it is. You don't like America, huh? American nationalism is disgusting. It's odious. I think that's your word, odious. Huh?
It's a big word.
American nationalism is odious. We shouldn't be a country, according to you. We should be part of the big one world, be run by you and Obama. And who else? Klaus Schwab. We will be one world. We will have one economy, and you will all have papers. We started you on papers with COVID. You got used to papers on COVID, and now you will all have papers. Papers for everyone. Remember? Wish Peter Sellers was alive now, huh? He could play that part. My name is Klaus Schwab. You will all have to wear umbrellas, around umbrella to block out the sun from climate change. No more climate change. There will be no spring, winter, fall. What's the other one? The other one, how do you say in English? The other one. Whichever one the other one is, you will not have it. No more. No more climate change. I am against the climate change.
But how do you become chairperson of the World Economic Forum? What a title.
You dare.
Dr. Maria brings up an even better question. What is
Ray,
Christopher Ray doing?
Christopher Ray
Klaus
belongs
Schwab?
in Davos. He is one of us. You dare ask? You who don't even have a card? Ask what Christopher Ray does at Davos? We don't tell people what we really do at Davos. How about climate change? No more climate change. Climate will not change ever again. When we're in power, it will be one climate. I decide the climate. With Obama, Gates, Soros, not Joe Biden. He's a moron. Joe Biden, puppet. You know puppet? You go puppet too? Joe, kill all those people in Afghanistan. We don't like people.
Well, Mayor,
lie about COVID so more people die.
Well, Mayor, we've got a huge audience tonight. We're rolling right along. We like to call this the fastest hour on the internet. How about we hear from our good friends at QUX TV? We'll do a couple of our commercials tonight. but maybe we do our first one, QUX TV, and continue to share with folks what we are considering an emerging technology and something that we hope our viewers will consider purchasing.
Yeah, I mean, there are two. I want you to look at this carefully, and I'll have a few questions. Maybe Ted can tell you a little about it too. But this solves two big purposes for you. One, it gets you service, the exact service I would think you have now, almost to a T, for half the price, and equal the quality, if not better. Quality was fabulous on mine. I've had it now for a while, and the quality is ideal. And so far, there's nobody I had a call with and fight with. My prior service, you're fighting all the time. But second, you will you'll be assured privacy. This is an entirely encrypted service that does not run on the same group of whatever you call them, and therefore they do not keep a profile of you. They don't know that you just bought toothpaste or that you like certain kinds of books or whatever.
We'll be sitting here talking about chocolate, and I'll get an ad on my phone for
right.
Hershey's chocolate.
I just got a one for toothpaste, and that doesn't happen. It's a private service done by patriots who will build this into privacy as it grows, built around everything. It'll just be you and who you want to know about it. For example, this service isn't completely developed yet. It's in its beginning stages, but within 6 months it'll be complete. You'll be watching a show. They'll be offering products for sale. If you want the advertisements, you can also cut them out. And then you can press a little button. You'll be able to buy that product. There will not be a record kept of that beyond within your file. You want to share it with someone? You can't. You don't want to, it stays there forever or gets wiped out. So let's listen to this.
The year is 2022. Cancel culture is the new normal. Online freedom as we know it has ended. Digital stockades are here. All activity is monitored, stored, and predictively analyzed by a technological cartel. We're being converted into a digital resource, a digital currency to be farmed for metadata and loaded into a computerized combine, blockchained to a social engineering operating system. However, it doesn't have to be this way. Be part of a new technological revolution. Right now, 1,000 test pilots have launched themselves into a new digital frontier, a private network outside of big tech control. New technology with state-of-the-art digital engagement and never-done-before security and privacy features that are now operational. With Qwix, digital engagement, entertainment, communication, and commercial exchange will never be the same. We are QUX. Qwix. Advanced pre-release sales are limited to 3,000. Order now by visiting Qwix.tv. Get yours now before they sell out. Be part of a brand new online experience that you control.
And then the box itself is $199. You do that one time, put it in, and you have all of these features, including privacy. And you also can communicate through portals. You can set up your own little television station if you want to communicate with your friends or communicate with the whole world. And there's more about that later, but go to QUX.tv and put down Rudy, and you'll get those discounts and maybe even faster service. We'll see. My dear
Hello.
Caroline, how are you?
I'm doing fabulous today. How about you?
Good, good. Tell us what you've been doing.
Oh, today I made a lot of noise.
You did.
In the New York Post, I gave a funny quote. I think it was funny.
Well, let's find out. We'll see.
Well,
If we laugh, it was funny. If we don't, you're in trouble. Good.
So, as you know, I've been a fundraiser for a long time and was President Trump's fundraiser. And so a lot of reporters call me to say, what am I hearing about the fundraising community? And so what I'm hearing is that they are abandoning DeSantis faster than you can even imagine. They are just wadding out. But DeSantis this past weekend was supposed to have 3 fundraisers in the Hamptons, which the Hamptons better than anyone. If you can't throw a party in the Hamptons, I mean, like, come on, anyone. This is what people live for in the Hamptons, is to have a party.
Yeah, he went this weekend for it.
He went this weekend, and 2 were canceled. Only 1 happened. Nobody showed up. So the New York Post calls me and says, "What are you hearing?" I said, "I heard nobody showed up, but I heard they got all canceled." And so I gave a quote to the New York Post. I said, "You know what? George Santos could have had a better fundraising weekend in the Hamptons than Ron DeSantis did this weekend," which is saying something, is it not? Like,
well, people would want to see him.
Nobody
went.
See,
just for the heck of it, they want to see Santos and see somebody who could lie this much, because they could see somebody like that on television every night with Biden. But Santos is a young Biden. That's what I would do. I go to all Biden's people and say, "Would you like to have in a few years another big liar and criminal in the White House? Give me money."
Well, I told him, I said, who did do very well in New York this weekend? He was in the city, but was RFK. He did $5 million. DeSantis raised less than $250,000 in the Hamptons this weekend. RFK did $5 million.
Well, he probably is getting a big boost off being censored by the Democrats.
Well, he had just done that testimony in Congress, and so all these people were interested. And in fact, the person who was on the invite hosting Ron DeSantis in the Hamptons, who I love to get these invites on the DeSantis, because as soon as I get them, I call every single person on it and say, "How dare you abandon President Trump? What are you doing?" And just put them on the record. I'm like, somebody's noticing, and I'm noticing. One of them was Omi Malik, who was ringing in the bell, by the way, for Public Square in New York City on Thursday morning with Donald Trump Jr. And he was on the invite. He said, "I never agreed to have my name on that invite." Yeah. And so then he is who hosted RFK Jr., which was great.
Wait a second. Wait.
Like, so they got it.
Hold it.
Yeah.
He didn't know his name was on the invite. He was hosting.
They put his name on the DeSantis invite. He never agreed to it.
But who did he think was coming to his house? If he was
Nobody.
there?
But then he got mad and they put his name on the invite for DeSantis. There's a bunch of people. This happened in Tennessee too. DeSantis was in Tennessee on Thursday. I called a couple of donors. They said, "Caroline, I never agreed to be on the Tennessee invite." I'm like, "Well, you put it. Well, I'm going to put it out in a statement for you." But like, this is how desperate they're getting.
Well,
so Omid though was like, "I am hosting an event for RFK. If that's okay." I'm like, "I love it. Of course." You know what? Like, that guy has some things to say that are interesting.
Well, I think that's true. I mean, I said quite some time ago that I thought Ramaswamy and RFK Jr. Both young. Well, RFK Jr. I think of as a young man. I guess he isn't, but I think of him as a young man. They're really producing a lot of issues for the campaign.
Well, I just loved him calling out Sean Hannity.
Yeah, I think they are. Aside from the usual garbage and bull that the candidates are contributing, which is what most of them are doing, aside from Trump, who goes up, for 2 hours and talks about policy.
Right.
I mean, there are a lot of jokes mixed in it and a lot of fun mixed in it. But then you go through, what's he going to do about the economy? What's he going to do about Russia? What's he going to do about China? He goes right through it. And the beauty we have is, we know he's going to do it because he already did it.
Right. So I like someone said this. They said, "You know what? I think Ron DeSantis would be a good president, but I know Donald Trump was a great president. So, like, why would you chance thinking someone could be good?" Which I think we've learned over the last 3 months. Like, he's not ready. Right?
Well,
he's not ready.
Here's the tragedy.
Such as this.
Here's the tragedy, at least for me, for Ron DeSantis, and Ted will know this really well because we talked about this a lot. And Dr. Maria. 6 months ago, I would have said exactly that. He will someday be a really good president. But number one, I'm not sure.
Right.
Because I'm never sure whether someone's going to be a good president. You just don't know.
Right.
You're a fool if you think you can predict it. It's too hard a transition. But it seemed to me he had all the right characteristics. And number two, let him wait, and it would be great. Then he ran, and I said, okay, let him run. He's now convinced me that maybe he wouldn't be a good president. That there are some things there's something missing there. For example, loyalty.
Right.
It's pretty damn to run against a guy who was your sponsor, your mentor. Beyond that, I know this because I was forced to go by Donald Trump. He wouldn't. This is not one of those. I endorsed a lot of people. Of all people I endorsed, there were 3 or 4 where I really made a difference. I really, really made. I was the reason they won.
Right.
Out of 1,000. In Trump's case, it's probably a few more than that, but most of them it helped. But it's not the reason they won completely. Don't tell the president that.
Well, you were one of the top surrogates. We would call you.
But in this case,
yes,
DeSantis is one of those you put in the category of no way if Trump doesn't support him twice. If Trump didn't support him against Putnam, he'd be still in Congress or retired.
Yeah.
Or if
he'd be in the middle of a heated battle for the next Freedom Caucus chair that he probably would lose, frankly, because he's
not charming.
Borderline autistic.
Well, I don't know about that, but he's certainly not charming.
Yeah.
And then in the race for governor, he was losing, and he would have lost.
He was down.
He would have lost if Trump and the 4 or 5 people he sent in didn't come in. DeSantis would have lost. Now, having done that, you owe the man not to run against him and give him his second chance. He earned a second chance at the presidency after doing such a good job and after losing in, let's be gentle, in such a questionable way. He is owed a second chance. But he's owed a second chance by any Republican, and certainly by the guy where you wouldn't be governor if it wasn't for him. So having done that, I see big character flaw. Then I wonder how good a president you can be. Now, watching him run his campaign, I don't know if he'd be a good president. He's running a terrible campaign. He's making terrible decisions. He's even saying stupid things. I mean, that whole thing that he put out about blacks got some real benefits from slavery.
Did you know Byron Donalds came out?
What are you?
Yeah,
I mean, I know
Byron was one of his only friends.
I'm not charging him of being a racist. I know what he meant. I'm telling you, he ain't ready for prime time. Go back to the farm team, baby. Farm team for you. No. Blacks got some really great opportunities from slavery.
Yeah.
They learned how to be blacksmiths. Wow.
Byron Donalds is like, what the hell is this guy saying? It's like,
are you just confused?
I'm confused. It made, well, but I mean,
they learned how to
running,
be butlers,
like he's making Jeb Bush look like the Hercules of campaigning right now. Like it is unbelievable to me. Every day I watch this, I'm like, it's like a train wreck that gets worse every day. I'm like, I don't even know how many more crashes.
Who has
a 5-day campaign reboot? Like it's like they fired all.
Everybody who loses has a reboot.
I know, but how many reboot? But like a 5-day news cycle, like you're supposed to have a 1-day news cycle.
The third reboot is when you put up the white flag.
Yeah, like
and
we're
you
not.
say
We're day 5 of this campaign reboot. Like it's a 1-day news cycle. It's the point of a reboot, and they just keep laying off. This is the worst reboot I've ever even seen. And how do you fuck up a reboot?
You guys are really maybe this will be a really good reboot. It'll be.
Good, not great.
It'll be a really good reboot. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
so how much of his staff did he get rid of?
He'd already laid off several. Then he got rid of a third of the staff.
That might not be bad.
Which was, he was spending $212,000 a day. He's only been in the race 6 weeks. Do you remember when I've worked on a lot of presidential campaigns, and so Scott Walker dropped out in September 30th because he was spending $90,000 a day. Ron DeSantis was spending 3 times as much of that. Right now, he's only been in for 6 weeks, $212,000 a day, and they were deferring a lot of the, I have the payments.
I have a suggestion for him. Let's get him a store on Madison Avenue. That's about right, about $200,000 a day, and he could advertise on Ron DeSantis on Madison Avenue or Ron DeSantis on Fifth Day. He wouldn't have to go anywhere. He could come in and explain all the benefits the blacks got from slavery in great detail. He could do that in great detail.
Perfect.
It's something. So of course, Caroline Wren, for those of us who also watch Steve Bannon's War Room, she's a regular there. People can follow her on Twitter at Caroline Wren. And Caroline, how would you describe yourself? People in our chats are they love what you're saying. You're speaking the truth. How would you describe what you do?
I am a recovering rhino, so that's probably why. But a lot of people know this, but I worked for John McCain in 2008, and then I worked for John Huntsman in 2012. I was Lindsey Graham's finance director. I worked for Olympia Snow. And so in 2016, I was Lindsey Graham's finance director in 16, and I'm on the campaign trail, and I just hate Donald Trump. He gets in the race, and I'm supposed to, and so Lindsey hates him and stuff. And I start watching these debates, though. I'm like, wait. So he just starts talking, and I'm like, I agree with. But it started the first debate. I'm like, wait, this guy's actually kind of funny. And then the next debate, I'm like, wait, I kind of agree with it. By the third debate, I'm like, wait, this man is saying everything that's in my head that I didn't know you could say out loud. And so by the end, by the time Lindsey gets out, Senator Graham gets out in New Hampshire, he turns to me, he says, Caroline, you're going to go down and you're going to work for Jeb Bush. And I said, sir, with all due respect, like over my dead body, I'm going to Donald Trump. And like, that was the last time I spoke to Lindsey Graham is when we split on that airway. And I just like flew to New York and just showed up at Trump headquarters and said, I'm here to help the cause. And I've been with Trump ever since. And so it's made me base as hell because like I came from that wing of the party. I lived through all of it.
I just can't see you as a rhino.
Right? No, but that was a different. Like you were considered a rhino during that time. Like when you would,
I would never
you know
have.
Like,
I would never. I consider myself. I would accept the designation moderate.
Yeah,
I would never have considered Republican in name only.
Right.
When I became a Republican, I never looked back, and I have done more attacking on the Democrat Party than anyone, including Donald Trump.
Right.
Because it goes back to the 90s. I was the designated person to show up at the Democratic convention on the day of the nominating speech and ruin it.
Yeah.
So the morning that Obama was getting ready to come out in Roman columns, you know, he was going to for his reelection, he was going to come out like Nero or I'm the Prince Obama, Prince Obama. I am Prince Obama. I saw I went behind the stage. It could be I saw the columns, and I got on Fox and Friends at 6:30 in the morning and told them about the columns so that all day they could make fun of them. Then when Hillary got nominated, I found out they excluded uniformed police from the Philadelphia convention and got 5 Philadelphia cops to go on and condemn her.
Right.
That she didn't want uniforms to be shown, which gives you an idea of how deeply seated the hatred is of police by the Democrat Party.
Of course.
Like that.
You were the one who started the hate,
movement.
I think. Because you supported police and you brought it all to clean up New York City. I believe the origin of the hatred of the police movement is you.
Oh, because they were effective.
Yeah.
The early 90s. This is where this all started. You cleaned up New York City. The left hated it
because
they got a Republican mayor of New York. Can you even imagine right now having a Republican mayor of New York? Rudy Giuliani, public enemy number 1. And you cleaned it all up, and they said we can't have this happen again. And
can you name for me a Democratic city, big one, that's not falling apart?
No.
I'll wait.
Okay, you want to wait another half hour?
Yeah, I'm like, is there anyone who kind of?
Well, it isn't just because it's the policies and programs
right
that they follow and that they want to put into effect for the United States.
How do you define falling apart? I define it by can you walk into a Walgreens and purchase a thing of little snack without having to go through 14 cages and have to ring a bell to have someone unlock something. I think that's the sign of a failed city.
You're setting records for one crime or another, if not all.
Right.
Your public schools nobody wants to go to. People are leaving more than coming to live there. And you probably have a serious debt crisis. And you probably can't pay your public employees their pensions.
Right.
That would be, and that's the beginning of it. And then it gets worse after that.
Right.
So before we let Caroline go, let's ask her one question here. Putting her on the spot, Mayor. For those in our audience, our growing audience, what advice would you give to folks who want to get involved? This may be the first time, right there.
Yeah, that's a good.
What's going on?
Yeah, because we need everybody. We need everybody in this one, Carolyn. You know that, right?
Sometimes it's intimidating for people, right? It is getting involved. Like where to start? What advice do you have? Putting you on the spot, Caroline.
So I do think the precinct system is very smart that Steve Bannon talks about, and that but I do think if you're a donor, I would say to give locally to your local club. Stop going. We fund too much of the Republican Party of a top-down system. Don't give to the Republican National Committee. It is absolutely useless. You might as well set your money on fire. And even some of these state party GOP clubs, they do need it, but this trickle-down theory of money is insane. Fund the clubs locally. Fund your local clubs and help them have the grassroots on the ground. You have to wait for handouts. We are against welfare in the Republican Party. We need to use that honor and not use it within our own Republican Party of waiting for handouts from the RNC or your state GOP. So ask for like good speakers to come and raise money within your GOP clubs and do voter turnout and different things there. And then as far as a volunteer process, I mean, we are so far behind. The Democrats are so much more sophisticated than us when it comes to voter turnout. We have no get out the vote program. It starts with the leadership of the RNC, but the Democrats have a $2 billion funded program that funds local institutions to register and turn out voters. And we have nothing even comparing to it at all.
Don't?
Even
No,
now, going into
of course
24?
No, there's absolutely no strategy plan, any funding, but nothing.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
You told me this 6 months ago.
Yeah, I mean, I scream it on every show that I'll go on. Yeah, but no, I mean, the Democrats fund Arabelle Advisors, which is a philanthropic consulting firm. They convince all the wealthiest people in the Democratic Party to set up a family foundation where they can, skirt all the tax.
And they put
evasion.
enough money in.
Yeah,
so
you put $50 million for your deadbeat son on salary.
yeah, you
skirt
can
all
even
your
steal
tax
something.
evasions, and then just like
you
put the money
you
in.
put enough in so you can even steal
Yeah.
something.
It's a massive. You can also give as a foreign citizen. The largest donor of the Democratic Party right now is not a U.S. citizen. He's actually a Swiss national. And they come after us. I was the first time that I was in. You probably have more investigations than I, but we might be close. But the first time the DOJ contacted me was over the Trump's inauguration, and they said that this one guy who had a funny last name that he gave $1 million to Trump's inauguration, and so I got subpoenaed and had to go in and do all this. And I'm like, I don't audit these guys' bank accounts when they want to give. And turns out he gave $1 million to a straw donor through a foreign country to Barack Obama's inauguration, not Donald Trump's. It cost me $150,000 to testify. No one from Barack Obama's campaign ever even had to testify. That man is now in jail for funneling $1 million to Hillary or to Barack Obama's. Nothing about Donald Trump, but like we're the ones that get the brunt of this.
Right,
Nobody
right.
knows this more than you, but it's insane. Like
if you can't put Hunter and Biden in jail, let's face it, you're not going to put the prince in jail.
No, Merrick Garland's not.
The prince never goes to jail, no matter
Right.
what. Even though he knew almost from the beginning that Hillary was conducting an absolutely illegal, horrendous campaign to frame Donald Trump. And he was told by Brennan and Clapper that it was untrue, that it was false, and that she put $1.1 million in to develop the phony Russian collusion. All during the time that we lived through, the American people, deprived of the information from the hard drive, our president at the time knew that was all covered up.
He told us.
This is the kind of man he is.
How do you
The prince.
Donald Trump was impeached over something that Joe Biden did? Like, can you imagine like that? I still can't even internalize that. And like when I heard him say it, he put it on his Truth Social. I just thought to it, I'm like, God, that is so true. They put this man through hell for 2.5 years over something literally Joe Biden did.
Well,
that Donald
isn't
Trump
he the
did
next?
not do.
Isn't he the next guy we investigate?
They're not going to investigate anyone.
We find out how the prince got that mansion in Chicago where that guy got killed yesterday.
They don't care. There's a Chappaquiddick happened at the Obama compound yesterday. Nobody seems to care.
Is that starting to look like a murder?
I don't want to go that far at this point, Mayor, but there are some additional questions
About a murder.
Revolving around the death of the former president's personal chef.
But wasn't he injured? Didn't he turn out to be injured?
Yeah.
Well, there were some reports, and maybe there's been more during the day.
They said he was bludgeoned in the head.
Is that confirmed?
Have they
Was
changed?
that confirmed, or is that just?
Haven't they changed the place he was found? Like they changed?
Well, they said Obama wasn't there, and then they're like, "Oh, he was there, but he just wasn't there at
That's
the
the
lake."
sure-
I'm like, "What is so? Why do you define
Having-
there
having-
in the lake? Was he in the lake? Like he was
having
at
been-
that? They're like,
Having been in the business for many years, when the place that the crime was committed changes 2 or 3 times,
there's a
I would say there's a crime.
Yeah.
Like where the cocaine in the White House. They don't seem to know where they found it.
Sure.
You
They
don't
don't-
drop
they-
that
they-
on
they
a
don't-
stand-up paddleboard.
they don't
I'm just
know-
saying,
they don't know where they
as
found
a
it.
34-year-old man.
Yeah.
They found it at first in the library. Then they found it in the upstairs waiting room. Then they found it in the downstairs waiting room outside of the Situation Room. Now, maybe there were 3 different cocaines, or maybe they were lying. Which do you think it is?
Well, with this White House mayor, it's hard to say. It
Yeah.
could probably be a combination of both.
And then a few days later, Hunter is observed driving out to see his friend. And there's a picture of his friend. I think we still
It's
have
his
it.
attorney.
Yeah, no, it's the guy who gave him $2 million. It's
The guy on the balcony?
Yeah, no,
That
the
was
guy-
his attorney.
No, the guy who gave him $2 million, and he's sitting there with a little pipe going like this.
That was his. No, really?
that
That was
was
the
his
attorney.
attorney.
Like, oh,
That
it was
was-
his attorney.
Attorney and his sugar daddy.
Yeah, it was his
Sugar brother.
attorney. Was out smoking.
He is not his attorney.
Oh, he just
Cut
is
it
an
out.
attorney.
He's not his attorney. He is an
Okay.
attorney, and he gave him $2 million.
Okay.
Okay. All righty.
Well, Caroline, thank you for joining us on a lively episode of America's Mayor Live. Mayor, we'll hear from our friend Kirk Elliott, PhD.
All
We'll come
right.
back and maybe you'll give our audience a nice, inspiring message to close out this very busy evening.
All right. Will do.
Oh, okay.
I'll get ready for my message. Faith and family, freedom and finance are 4 things that we would do anything to protect. I trust the team at Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors, with providing the advice and sound strategies to take advantage of the inflationary pressures, the high interest rates, and the international challenges we face today. The Kirk Elliott team, with over 29 years of experience, shares our values and believes in people over profit. They can help you protect your finances from the big government policies that are out of our control. So what's in our control? The decision to act or not to act is within our control. I encourage you to act. Call Kirk Elliott, PhD, Private Advisors today. Start working with a team that will help you protect your retirement assets with gold and silver while sharing your desire to protect your faith, family, and freedom. Call them today, 720-605-3900. That's 720-605-3900, and tell them Rudy sent you. Or simply fill out a request for a free consultation at kirkelliottphd.com/Rudy. I mean, we saw, well, let me start with everyone. There was an article yesterday, or was the day before, that I showed you that said Ukraine's running out of money for arms. Question is, where the hell did the money go that we gave them? I mean, we've given them $114 billion. That I'm not sure that the European countries doubled it, but they've come close to that. And we also gave them arms. We gave them so many arms that our half-wit president announced the other day that we don't have enough arms. I thought President Trump at his speech handled that beautifully with a certain degree of sarcasm, but boy, that was powerful. I mean, how stupid do you have to be to announce to China you don't have arms? I mean, how incredibly stupid do you have to be? And what further indication do we need that you should be thrown out of the White House if you go around telling our enemies you have no guns? I mean, that's like knowing that there's a serial killer in the neighborhood or a group of them going around trying to attack people and put a sign on your door, I have no weapons. He did that to our country. So what did Ukraine spend the money on? I mean, they don't have enough arms to win the war. We've given them we've given them more money than we've ever given any other country in a similar circumstance. We've given them guns as well, not just money. Europe has done the same, and they're out of arms. Could it be that the fact that Obama refused vehemently to put an inspector general in charge of the money, could it be that was on purpose? Biden. Well, Obama did too. He did. Why would he not want an inspector general taking a look? Look, why wouldn't he want it for the good of the Ukrainian people? Because you got a dichotomy there, right? You got very good people, many of whom died because Biden was president. Biden, of course, is not intellectually able to do this logical contortion. He never could, even before he was senile. I know him. He's too stupid to go through this logical progression. But the fact is, these people are dead because of him. If Trump were president, Putin would not have invaded. If Putin hadn't invaded, none of the people would have died. Why did they invade? Because of several reasons. First, I think the minute he became president, they knew they had a massive weakling there who had never made a correct decision about foreign policy in his life, per Secretary Gates in the Obama administration. Number two, they knew they had a pathetic coward who would not act. He was against killing bin Laden. There's nobody in the world that was against killing bin Laden but him. He was the guy who said that China is our friend. He's the only person in America who said that. Well, of course, there were 31 million reasons for that. So Putin didn't just rest his decision on that. Putin is a mean, vicious, evil man, but he's an intelligent man. And he tested him. He poked him. I'm going to go into Ukraine. I'm not going to put any troops on the ground. I'm going to go into Ukraine. I'm going to put any troops on the ground. I'm going to go into Ukraine. I'm putting troops on the ground. I'm going to go into Ukraine. Mr. President, will you go in? Not if it's a minor incursion. I just got all the information I wanted as the former head of the KGB, didn't I? I got that jackass for a month and a half to go on television and basically kiss my you-know-what. And I got every indication that I could get. He ain't going to do nothing if I go in. And then I go in. What do you think if he started doing that with Trump? Trump would have said, goodbye, Moscow. That's what he would have said. Oh, yeah, you're coming in? Where do you exactly stay when you leave Moscow? Or maybe Z would remember the day that Trump left him at a dinner, went and bombed Syria, and came back and finished his dinner. You see, that's the difference in having a president like a Reagan or a Trump and having, well, we've never had a president like this. Well, tomorrow we'll find out more about what is going on with this plea that looks like it has been correctly located by the judge as a major, major scandal.
Hey, Judge!
We haven't had much to cheer the judiciary about, particularly in Washington, D.C., with what they're doing to those January 6 people who remind me of the Japanese who were interned during the Second World War by this fascist administration. And we'll find out more about whether they're going to go ahead and Democrats are going to succeed in getting Trump nominated by acclamation and elected by unanimous vote. That would be if they did 2 more indictments, because each indictment he gains 10%. He is now ahead by a margin of about bare minimum 30, maximum 45% over a DeSantis who has sunk below 15 and is now being threatened for second place. In a few places, Haley is in second place. Scott's got a chance at second place. Ramaswamy's got a chance at second place. They're all within 2 points of the once very powerful, sinking fast DeSantis. And I think he has himself to blame a bit for it, but he also has the Democrat Party to blame for it. Each one of these indictments is so patently unfair that Trump goes up. I still wish there's not another one for the good of the country. And I conclude the way I began. Is there a Democrat with honor? Just one that loves this country more than the money, the power, the glory that they get from being tied up with this crooked government. So please, somebody step up for America like Barry Goldwater did several generations ago. God bless America. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common